Okay, well, let's then just begin.
Okay.
Hi, everyone. My name is Susie. This is Kim, and
Hi.
we're here to talk about the membership process for APNA.
Yeah, we're really excited that you have an interest in becoming a member of APNA. And so we just wanted to kind of walk you through what steps we go through in the process so that you can be set up for success. And just Susie's been doing this much longer than I have. But we've just sort of put our heads together recently and thought, this might be good to help people get prepared for just a kind of an easy breezy process, as opposed to maybe getting tripped up on a couple things. So what we're going to do is walk you through the process. Susie, do you want to go through kind of just the steps, and then we'll break each one of those down?
Yeah, sure. I think for starters, I think it would be good to also just outline the goal, which is for you to be a member. Like, we want APNA members. We love having more members. We are not a scary screening committee that's trying to keep people out of APNA. We are actually a very welcoming group of people that want you to join. So the process that we're going to talk you through is something that we will work with you on to make sure that we have the best possible results for your membership. So the process is, I'll call it like 6 steps. Does that feel fair, Kim? 6 steps? Okay. So we start with document review. We move on to an interview. There is a reference stage. There is an evaluation call stage. Depending on how those things go, there is a feedback or kind of growth plan stage. And finally, finalization and welcome stage. So 6 phases of getting to APNA.
Yeah. So that's probably the biggest one, I think, to start is just a document review, only because there's just so much to review. So when we say document review, that makes you think of paper, but honestly, we're also looking at the website. So I'm going to let Susie kind of break in here, because she really this is the first step. So once you apply, and as you know, everything will be submitted upon your application. The next step is that Susie's going to take some time to look at your website and your documents. Mm-hmm. And then after that, the next step is when we do kind of the call. But Susie, talk us through the document review and the website. Kind of what are you looking for? And then not only that, I would love for you to talk about some of the biggest things that you've seen. They're like, okay, this is a red flag.
Sure, totally. Okay. Ooh, tasty. Okay. So when I'm looking at documents, I look at it like sort of similar to how I would screen a nanny that was coming into my agency, kind of looking for a complete package of materials. But we have a checklist of items that we need, including things like the date that your agency was formed, the agreements between your agency and your clients, the agreement between your agency and your nannies, like that kind of stuff. So there's certainly a checklist of materials that I need to review. But also when I look at the website, I'm looking for, just a certain level of professionalism. I'm looking for grammar to be, representative of APNA, standards. I'm looking for there to be sort of no disingenuous superlatives like America's #1 agency with nothing to back it up at all. And I'm just looking for, to get a sense of the company, the services, and to make sure that nothing jumps out at me as being just flat out wrong. Like misinforming, providing information that isn't actually accurate, or something that could confuse or mislead a client or a nanny, that kind of stuff. And some of the kinds of red flags that have jumped out at me in the past have been plagiarism, for example, where you can see that there's a clear clearly there's another company that's been sort of copy pasted and put into this website. That's been a pretty big issue. Sometimes misinformation, like I said, around certain policies, not explaining overtime inaccurately, or maybe, sort of explaining the employment relationship between nannies and families in a way that is not accurate according to the law. I'm not a lawyer, but, I've gotten pretty familiar with that kind of stuff. And I think that's really it in terms of flags. I think the biggest issues that we run into with document review are simply not getting all the documents that we need.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a really handy checklist now to just be like, this is all the stuff.
These are the things that you need. One thing I wanted to say is, like, we all say that, copying something is the greatest form of flattery, but in this case, it is not. And a lot of times we have heard from time to time an agency owner saying, oh, well, my web person, must have done that. And maybe they did. We're not saying that they didn't, but you should make sure that your web person didn't go copy and paste, because this isn't a very big industry, and Susie has vetted many agencies. So sometimes things just pop out and you can tell. And it's not only that, it's like, maybe even images and stuff like that. So just be careful. Just double check your work. If you had somebody else do your website, which I'm sure you did, because that's what we all do, you should have known where the text came from. So make sure that you know that. I think I would just throw that in there.
Yeah, or sometimes even just like already having the APNA logo on the website, for example, can sometimes come up because web developers are sort of kind of roughing in where they want the logos to be, and they kind of preemptively put it up there. And that is something that, is important to us that is not happening unless you actually are an APNA member, things like that. But yeah.
Okay. Great. Well, the second step is kind of where I jump in, and it's called we call it an interview. It's really a question and answer. I just call and I get to know you. I do ask questions about your business. We kind of drill down on the different services. There technically I think are about 20 questions on there. But it's a very organic conversation. And so one thing kind of rolls into the next thing. So that'll be something, a call that I'll have you. Those go. I've never had a bad one. I've enjoyed getting to know everybody that I talk to. And I just love that everybody's really excited about, joining APNA. And so that's always just like, we kind of just rally around that. So that's the next step. And then
if I can jump in on that a little bit too, some of the things that we'd like to drill into during those conversations are any kind of explanations around how the financial arrangements work between your agency and your nannies, your families and your nannies, your babysitting services. We just want to make sure that we have a clear understanding on who's paying who's the actual employer. Does that line up with what's written in your contract? Things like that. So yeah, we might.
I will say, sorry, Susie, were you done?
Yeah, I'm done.
Yeah, I was just going to say, if Susie does the document review and we have red flags, then that call for me will be, hey, so glad you're doing APNA membership process, but let me just tell you, we found, X, Y, and Z, and we'll kind of walk you through. And it might be like, hey, if it's something not major, we'll say, hey, take care of it, let us know when it's done, and we'll check it again. We've had some that just their documents just were not the quality they needed to be. It was going to take a little more time. They might have to get a lawyer to do their contracts and etc. So we were like, hey, we're going to, we'll touch base with you in 60 days or 90 days. And then we have had some that just have not been ready to move forward at all. And we're going to need some more time. And so that would also be a time where that call would be more, hey, we looked at your reviews and your document review, and here's the feedback that we have. We just think you should just kind of take some time and get everything right. Another thing we do recommend at that time, and I would recommend it now even, is that you join our mastermind group, because you get involved. There's a couple groups that actually have a more of a mentor feel, because they're taking, like a veteran will take some younger owners, and I don't mean younger in age, just mean in terms of the agency age, and kind of walk through a lot of stuff like that, which is really helpful. So that's something also, if you're not in a mastermind, I would jump into one of those regardless of where you are in the membership process. But once that call is either going to go, hey, here's some things you need to fix, let's circle back around, or it's going to be like, hey, everything looked great, let's move forward. So then the next piece would be references that we'll check.
Yes, we'll have 3 nanny references and 3 family references typically get checked. And that's usually something that Kelly handles, and it will just be scheduled via Calendly or something.
Oh, you froze, Susie.
Hello, am I frozen? I don't think I'm frozen.
You were, but now you're not frozen.
I was going to say it's typically scheduled via like Calendly or something like that. And, that part of the process can take a little while depending on how long it takes to get references. We all know this, right? We've all checked references before, so they are always the slower part of the process.
And the other thing to know is that we are going to check references of candidates and clients. So if you're not comfortable, and we have had people get through the process and say, well, I'm just not comfortable giving client references, we're so sorry you feel that way. We understand, we respect your decision, but we can't move forward. So we don't make exceptions to that. So if you're someone who's like, hey, I'm not going to ever do that, then this probably isn't a good process, but hopefully you are, because you probably have some clients that'll, want to tell us great things that you did.
Yeah.
After that, we have an evaluation call. You can call it a secret shopper if you want. It is going to be a phone call that we're not going to announce that is happening. And we're really just going to ask, questions as if we were trying to hire a nanny or maybe another position. I will tell you the biggest thing here is making sure that everybody that answers the phone knows all of the things. Now, what are the main things you need to know? Well, obviously all about your agency, but the big questions usually revolve around legal pay, or what if I just want to pay a salary, and making sure that you know how to explain that. Or if you don't want to get into the nitty gritty, saying, well, we do refer all of our clients to payroll service to get to the bottom of that, but there is a right way to do it, legal pay. And if you want to do it, it has to include overtime, etc. So everybody on your team should know that. If they don't know the answers to all the nitty gritty, they need to know that there is a process for legal pay that includes overtime, and you can refer them to whoever. The other thing would be, if there's any sort of discrimination, we may, we talk a little bit about discrimination. So making sure your people know all about that. And what else? I think there's a third thing. Can you remember, Susie? Let me think.
I think that you've hit the main ones, talking about legal pay, overtime, guaranteed hours, things like that. Yeah, that's the main stuff.
Yeah. So just make sure, we've had many calls where they're like, oh, I don't know why so-and-so answered the call. They shouldn't have taken it. Well, somebody's answering your phone and talking to a client and giving information. That's a valid call, and you shouldn't have people on, hopefully you got everybody up to speed. So make sure, and I think it's a great teaching moment for your team. Like, hey guys, you all need to know how to answer these questions. Even if you don't know the answer, you need to know how to answer the questions, because payroll can get really complicated very easily. So I totally get it. But the other thing too is if somebody asks, a discriminatory type question, you really need to have that. I know APNA's just put out a really great toolkit on discrimination, and how to answer those questions. If you're at conference, you probably heard a lot of this also, but your team really should have a talking point. Hey, we cannot discriminate based on these things, et cetera, et cetera. So make sure everybody's up to speed. It's just good practice, not for our call, but just for business.
For all calls, yeah.
Okay, so after that, the next step is the feedback, which you may have gotten after your document review, but you might have gotten through that, and now the feedback is because of the secret shopper call, because maybe it went great, or maybe it didn't go great. Right. And so if you get to the secret shopper call and then there's feedback, usually that stuff is pretty fixable, because if your documents are in order, and that's just going to be some coaching. So we're just trying to get in front of that. That's really the purpose of our video here, is to get in front of that and to make sure that you have everybody up to speed, because sometimes you just get moving or grooving and you replace a position and that person didn't know. I didn't know that, and so nobody taught them that. So any thoughts on that, Susie?
Yeah, the other part of it, I think important for California agencies, is just to make sure to consider the trust line process. So we do have a lot of agencies from California, and if all of your staff is not aware of your trust line process, or if there's any sort of inconsistency in how one person handles your trust line process or another person handles your trust line process, like that will be something that will get flagged during review.
Just so if you are in California, trust line is required. And we know that's a long process. We know it's not that great. You don't get turned around with it. It still has to be done, is the point.
Still has to be done, right? Exactly.
Yeah. So after that, after the feedback, hopefully everything goes right through. If there's changes, great.
And the changes could be like 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, or even a year. We might say, hey, we think that this is going to take some time. Maybe you have to change your whole process around your interviews or your whole process around your references. You need to get a new group of nannies in that have been screened up to a certain standard. Like we might say, let's circle back in a year's time. Or if you're telling us, hey, I've just submitted my website, but we're about to redo the whole thing and do completely different content, then we might be like, Great. Let us know once that's settled down a year from now. Other things might just be, you know, hey, let's reconnect in a couple months and see how this is going, or let's reconnect in a couple months when you've had time to retrain your staff a little bit, and let's do another evaluation call and then go from there.
Yeah. And then after that, I mean, hopefully the end goal would be, hey, welcome to APNA, because you went through with trying colors. So one of the things, you know, again, we just encourage you is just, we understand, trust us, we understand how you are in the business working all the time. And sometimes it's hard to stop and do it. And like, when's the last time I looked at my contract? And, you know, is it what I want it to be? Like you know, we are technically a franchise of Mom's Best Friend Austin. So my contract for a long time said that all my litigation would happen in Travis County, which is in Austin. Well, I live in Dallas County. I don't really want to go to Travis County, you know, but sometimes when people quote unquote, you know, sort of borrow some things, we've had people that have had their legal towns, you know, in like a different state that they don't even operate in, because they kind of lifted it from somebody else. So take some time, and it is good to do it, and it won't take that long, and you'll be glad that you did, not only for the APNA process for membership, but just because your office will just be in much better order, and your people will be trained even better because you kind of went over everything again with them. So I think that's mainly it. Susie, do you have any other things to throw in?
No, I think the other things to keep in mind during the process are just that the board that reviews the membership inquiries is a volunteer board. We work really hard to try and do things as quickly as we can, but we also run our own agencies and are active in our own agencies, and that we appreciate it when we're treated with kindness and support. And you know, there have been times where we've been treated like customer service staff, and that's simply not who we are. So as a reminder, please be kind to us. We are doing,
and that's generally how it happens, for sure. But the other thing too is we have, just so you know, we have put some limits on how quickly we're doing each step so that we are accountable. And Kelly's great about keeping us accountable. So I know we got a notification yesterday that 2 new members have signed, or 2 new potential members have started the process. So we are going to be on those ASAP. So thank you for your patience. And do know that, you know, I would say Susie probably has the most difficult job in the document review, because that's a lot of reading, and it is. So should we?
It's fun. I really do like
the
that.
fact that you say it's fun is why you have that job, because for me that would not be fun. I would want to just jump out the window. So anyway, but anyway, I think thanks for watching our video. And if you have any questions, you can always email either one of us. You can find us on the APNA website, and you can email us. And Kelly is a great source of information too.
One other thing to note is just that your documents are confidential. I am the only person that reviews those documents, and I will share anything with you that I find to be, you know, something that needs clarification. They're not posted anywhere. We understand that these are proprietary materials, and we haven't had any issues around that stuff, but important to note that, you know, it is kept in a very, very small, tiny group of people that have access to any of this stuff.
Yeah, that's right. All right. Well, I think that's it. Like I said, thanks so much for watching our video.
Thank you. We look forward to welcoming you into membership.
Bye.